Anybody, and Ethan, if you're continuing this, or anybody else, please remind me because I'm gonna like forget to record. So hi, if you're just joining the recording, I see that we are now recording. Okay, I forget things. That's another thing about me. Yeah, remind me. Put it in the chat if I forget at the beginning of class to turn on record, because I know there will be people who are not here who want the recording. So I was telling you about myself. Yeah, so anyway, I taught high school for a number of years, and then I went on and did graduate degrees, and began at CBU a long time ago, 2003. So I've been teaching at CBU since then. And yeah, that's kind of me. I'll make a Flipgrid video as well, and I don't know, say something else about myself. I think that's what you need to know now. So yes, I'm in Ontario. My family is in Ontario, and I go back and forth. And yeah, I have two daughters, one who's at McGill and one who's in high school. And okay, so let's hop back over to Moodle again. Here we are. Okay, so for those people listening to the recording, sorry, I started the recording late, but I was just introducing people to Moodle and pointing out the open office hours. So if you want to meet with me during that time, 3 to 4, you can simply click that link, and you see it will say, click the link to join the meeting. So that's an easy way to meet. But if those times don't work for you and you want to meet, then send me an email and we can set up a private meeting time, and can meet with you that way. So that stuff is there. I was saying to before that these are our two key documents, the course outline and the weekly calendar. So that's the course outline. And we'll look at the calendar in a minute. What else do we have at the top here of Moodle? We have a link to the OED, which is the Oxford English Dictionary, which is the premier dictionary, and dictionary is extremely important for the study of poetry in particular, because you can learn a lot. Well, poetry will teach us a lot about language and how deep, complicated, and rich language is, and the history of language, the history that's buried in words, where words come from and their various meanings. You won't get all that from just doing a Google search or using a basic dictionary, but using the OED, you get a lot more about language, and that information can be really useful and interesting when writing about poetry. So that's there. Course resources and handouts. There will be lots of these. Let's see what I have now. And as I said, there's more coming soon. So these are some basic things. Academic integrity statement, the grading scale, that is, what is an A paper, what does a B paper look like, how to make an appointment at the Writing Center. And then one thing that you're going to use for the next class is how to write a poetry paraphrase. So you can download those, and there will be more of those coming. And then at the bottom, you'll find assignments and homework, places where you can upload your assignments. So they're all easy to find at the bottom there. And then the next section, you will find information on the textbook. So right now, and again, we still have something to figure out, but if you buy an electronic version, or if you bought a new copy, then you'll have the code and you'll put it in and you will have access to, well, let's see what it looks like. I have access to it. Your screen will do that. And then you'll find the whole textbook here. And it's an introduction to literature. So we're not using the first part, which is fiction, but we are using the next two parts, which are poetry and drama. And there is, of course, tons and tons of stuff in these sections, and you can search it. here. There's like, anyway, there's all kinds of good features. The other features that are important, let me go back here, are these two things: the close reading workshops and the pause and practice exercises. So these are exercises and workshops that exist within the Norton and which we'll be using. And that's why you need to have the electronic code as well to get into the book. And I will find out about that for people who have secondhand copies. Okay, any questions about anything so far? Or I'm gonna hop over to the course outline so we can kind of go through what the course is gonna look like. Okay, hearing none. I'm not seeing the chat, so I'm assuming there's nothing in the chat. I'm gonna just continue. So course outline. So the basic purpose of this course, like all of the introductory courses, is to develop your ability to read and think critically and write effectively. And that's done in this case through the study of poetry and drama. This is also very much, for people who are interested in continuing and doing more English courses. This is very much focused on those skills of literary analysis. And so, as I say at the bottom there, these are kind of the two key interrelated skills that this course is about, which is analysis and close reading. And analysis itself means to analyze something means to ask, what does that thing mean? We can apply analysis to all kinds of things, right? When and so in that class, we're analyzing things like advertisements and television and films and social media apps and, all kinds of things. I mean, there's, lots of areas of study. There's studies in celebrity studies where people just, there are people whose lifetime work is to analyze Elvis or the Kardashians. Of course, if you're in a different discipline, if you're in history, you're doing the same thing. You're analyzing what were the causes of World War II. What is the meaning of, well, if you were working in contemporary history, you might be starting to ask, what was the meaning of the Trump era? Or what is the meaning of the Trudeau era? What is, I guess one of the main things that we're hearing analysis about all the time now is the pandemic, right? What does the pandemic mean? What does it mean to our present age? One of the ways that people will analyze that is by looking back to the past, right? And saying like, well, what happened in pandemics in the past and what can we learn from those? So analysis is, and of course, one uses analysis in the sciences as well. You're analyzing, organisms if you're in biology, etc. So analysis is a key skill and part of the way that analysis works. And so that's a lot of what we're going to do in this class is and that's one of the things that, I hope you're going to get out of this class is an ability to not only analyze poetry and drama, but to bring that skill to anything so that when you see a movie and walk away from it, you'll be able to think more deeply and critically and think about what was that about? What was the director trying to do? What can we further say about that? The way that, the key parts of analysis is close reading. That is looking at, to analyze something, we need to break it down and look at its parts. If I want to analyze a film is a fairly big phenomenon. What you want to do is start looking at its smaller parts. What does the acting How does the acting contribute to this film, and who are the actors that were chosen, and what does the cinematography contribute to it, and what does the music and costumes, etc. So we want to really analyze the film. We got to start breaking things down into their smaller parts. What did this particular scene in this film, or in this play, which is what we're going to be doing in the second half, we're going to be looking at, closely at plays. What does that one scene tell us about the whole play? So that's a key kind of skill of analysis, and analysis is like our key skill in a way for this class. So that's what the class is about. And poetry, we start with poetry because it is probably the genre that allows for close reading better than any other, because poems are small objects, right? Many of them exist in, well, if it's a sonnet in 14 lines, it's something that's contained, that we can look at very closely and understand how it's made. And understanding that is helping us understand how language works. And if you're a post-structuralist, or if you're of a philosophical mind, many people think, that language is essentially the thing that makes up our worlds. It's the thing that we use to understand our worlds. Often it's the thing that we use to communicate with one another about our worlds. And so language is an incredibly important, powerful thing, and poetry lets us look at it in a very small, on a small scale. All right, so that's a little bit about what this course is about. Then under procedures and assignments and workload, just a few notes here. This is, of course, this is my first CBU post-pandemic, or during, not post-pandemic, pandemic class. I have taught, not this course, but I have taught distance classes for CBU in the past. So I'm pretty familiar with distance education, but in the past we didn't have Teams, and we didn't have this built-in synchronous part to it. So this is, the class is definitely a work in progress for all of us. And I'm going to set up some polls and ask people. We have some polls already on Teams. I'm going to set up some more questions and ask people about their preferences in terms of synchronous live meetings like this, and asynchronous learning, where you're learning on your own time. And I think we'll balance those things probably. We'll begin with 2 classes a week. We may move to lesser classes a week. We may move to 1 class a week, depending on how people feel about it. How people feel it's going, and whether you would like to do more independent work. Definitely the class is such that can happen. So, for the first couple of weeks, we will meet twice a week, and then we'll talk about how it's going for people and what if they would rather move to 1 class a week. So when we're in classes together, some things that, one thing to do that I note here, think about, this is my suggestion for your allotment of time. That is, think about 8 hours per week for work on this class. That might be slightly more when you have some major assignments due. It will certainly be less some weeks when you have lesser reading and lesser assignments, but it's it's a fairly intense class. And especially, if we move away from regular class meetings, you've got to schedule your time. I would think about scheduling my time so that I know that I can give that amount of time to this class every week. So that's to help you schedule. Some things to do to to participate and remain involved. Make sure that you're checking Moodle announcements regularly. That is where I will post information. There's a lot of us, so I will post the information, for example, about the textbook that we were talking about before. That will go into the announcements. So make sure that you check that regularly for updates. Synchronous classes, you want to be here. You want to be prepared. I will do attendance for when we have classes. So the facilitator will take attendance to see that people are here, and we'll just mark off the people who are here. I have said, yeah, we'll have to see. I suggested cameras on. I can't see anybody anyway right now. I wonder why that is. I wonder if I can make my view when I'm in this view. I don't know. I'm only getting one person right now in this view. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about that. But when I'm not screen sharing, I like being able to see people or put up a picture. All your professors will appreciate that, having a picture rather than just initials in a circle. The other thing to do to be active in the class is to read in an active way. That is, and for me, that always means reading with a pencil in hand. I have many mechanical pencils because that's what I use to mark up text, because I find those the easiest things to write with, and then you can also erase them. And so I'm always, anytime that I'm reading for work, or for you, reading for class, I always have a pencil in my hand, and I'm thinking about what interests me in the things that I'm reading, what captures my interest. Often, I won't know necessarily why that is, and that may be the case for you as well. You just it's like, oh, this is the poem that I really liked, or that I found really engaging for some reason, or I found really confusing, or that I want to talk about more. So those are the sorts of things that you want to make notes about, writing notes in the margins, notes about things that you notice, and ideally bringing those questions, those observations to class. That's, in my ideal world, that's how a class would go. Our classes, you've got readings that you're doing outside of class, and in class we're talking about the things that interest you or trouble you, etc. So I'm hoping that people will bring those questions to class, and that those will help lead our class. Okay, let's keep going. So here's the evaluation for the class. There are weekly quizzes, and those quizzes are multiple, as I said something about them already, they're multiple choice. They're written on Moodle. They can be written anytime in the 24-hour period before. So the quizzes are essentially in the Friday class, but you need to write them anytime 24 hours before that Friday class, and they cover the week's work. So that means you can write them from Thursday at 2:30 until Friday at 2:30. And they're based on that. The week's readings, as I said, they're available on Moodle. They will be multiple choice. I have not written them yet, so I don't know how many questions. Typically what I do, and they may be, is they won't be more than 10 questions. So typically in the past, I have done 10 questions, 15 minutes. So that gives you enough time for sure to answer the questions if you've read the material. And the point of these quizzes is really mostly a reading check. So they're multiple choice. So they're saying two things. Did you read the material, and did you read it, reasonably closely? And if you did, you'll have time to go back and check the material. You'll know it's on these 20 pages, and in those pages, well, somewhere in those pages, there was a definition of synecdoche, or metonymy, which are, two words used to talk about figures of speech. And so if you don't remember, you will definitely have time to flip back to that page and see, oh yeah, I remember it was right there. There's the definition of synecdoche. You will have enough time to do that. If you haven't read the material, you will not be able to find the definition of synecdoche within that period of time. So that's basically the way the quizzes work. And that's my purpose in the quizzes, is mostly, did you read the material, but also a little bit, did you read it closely? And did you absorb some of it? So that's the point of the quizzes, and they happen every week, and that's a good way to keep you on track, I think. They are, of course, open book, but I want to stress, they do have to be completed individually, not collaboratively. This is your own work for sure. And there are no makeups for missed quizzes. You have a 24-hour period. So, you know, even if you have technical issues for part of that period, you'll find some time within that 24 hours to do it. So there are no makeups, but I do drop the lowest quiz grade. So you will get the average of your best 8 out of 9 quizzes. So that's the first thing. Then essay number 1, I will talk about in a minute, participation and bonus marks. And there's bonus marks available. So the 20% participation mark is based on class attendance, participation, homework assignments, and particularly the main homework assignments will be some of the close reading workshops, which are these things right here. Here, I'll show you what they look like. So again, this is why you have to have access to the website. So here are the close reading workshops, and you can see these are the ones that are available, and grades are accepted up until the 20th for the first one, which is the due date of the first one, and this will of course be in the calendar, and the 27th for the second one. And you'll have more information about this in the calendar, but basically what these are all on poems, and you're going to choose for each one, there's a choice of 6 poems. So these are poems that you're going to have read before. You're going to choose one. Here's one by Emily Dickinson. Is it going to let me in? Yeah, it's going to let me in. And it's going to open like this. And you're going to go through these phases. It's going to have an introduction, and it's going to tell you about the poem. And then it's going to ask you a question, and you're going to submit your answer. And then it's going to have, oh yeah, this is cool. It has a reading of the poem. And then it will have another question, etc. So it goes through paraphrase, observe, contextualize, analyze, argue, and reflect. So it goes through all these stages. I think I'll be interested, actually. I love it for people to keep track of their time, so I get a sense of how long it takes someone to finish this. My guess is like 30 to 45 minutes. It's not a huge thing, but 45 minutes, that sort of does say something about what this is asking in terms of close reading, right? This poem, this Emily Dickinson poem, is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines long. So you're gonna work for 45 minutes to an hour on something that's 9 lines long. And that's close reading. That's our key skill. So, okay, let me go back to that. Okay, so that's here. So that's part of participation. So there are 2 kinds of activities on the Norton. One are these close reading workshops, and you're going to complete 2 of them on poetry and 1 of them in the second half on close reading of a play. Then the other things are these pause and practice exercises. And these are for bonus points. So these are exercises that there's one of these that's required, which is this first one on the literary thesis. And you have to finish that to before you do your first paper. It's probably due the same day maybe as your first paper. Otherwise, there's 7 more. Reading the assignment, how an essay works, active reading, developing a thesis, using quotations, etc. And these likewise take you through a series of activities. Let's open one. So it begins with what do you know? And it will have some questions for you to answer about what you know already. Then it asks you to watch a short video. These are like all 3 minutes. It's very short. It will ask you to read something, to learn more about the topic, and then it will ask you to do an activity on what you learned, and then finally it will ask you to do write a short essay. This is very short, like 200 words basically. So so those are, okay, I'm hopping back. Wait, let me go back out of this for a minute. Let's hop back to the course. Those 7 extra activities are available for bonus points. So you can receive up to 7 bonus points on your final grade for completing these other pause and practice activities. They can be completed anytime until April 9th. So until the end of the course. So you can do these anytime you want. Your stuff gets recorded through Norton. And as it says here, most of the exercises require a short essay for the apply section. That's the final section. Unless otherwise noted, those essays should be at least 200 words long to receive credit. And basically this is a credit, no credit situation, which is the same with the close reading activities. They're not evaluated like as an A, B, C. They're just, you do them and you do them at the appropriate length, you get credit. So the appropriate length actual is noted here at the bottom, and it tells you also which writing activity to do. So for reading the assignment, for apply, you're going to do the essay 1B or C, and this one is, I'm saying 100 words minimum. For how a literary essay works, I'm asking you to do the apply exercise 1C. And again, if we, well, it's straightforward. You'll find them there, and it tells you the minimum number of words.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know, like you said that in the close reading activity, we have options to do, right?
Right.
So is it like,
yeah, I'll
if
show
there are
here.
6, so I just need to do
I
one?
can show you. Yeah, exactly. You're just doing one, and I can show you in the calendar, which we haven't looked at yet. Why
And
you
it
all
can
my?
be of my choice, right?
It's of your choice of the, yeah, of the 6. So here, oh wait, I'm not screen sharing now. Let me screen share again. Wait, am I? No, I'm not screen sharing. Hold on. Okay. Back to screen share. So here's the calendar. And you can see on January 16th, which is, this is your weekend reading. I say read 6 poems and choose one for workshop number 1. So you're going to read those poems. It tells you what pages they're on. So very easy to find in the Norton, and then you choose. So which of those 6 do you want to do the workshop on? And then that's due here, January 20th. So of course you can do this whenever you want, right? I mean, like you can do this anytime until January 20th. So yes, so that's up to you. And then the following week, I've like put it on, as the weekend. The following week, read these 6 poems, choose which one you want to do, and then do the workshop by the 27th.
Okay, and our observation can vary, right? Like, the answers that we write will be different. So
exactly.
we won't be evaluated on that, right?
Right. Well, yes, exactly. So your answers, yes, you're doing close reading. It's not being evaluated. It's credit, no credit. And I will indicate whether like there's a word limit. I haven't for the pause and practice, I have the word limits in. I haven't done that for the close reading yet, but yes, as long as so basically all what I'm looking for is that you're engaging with the question. You can't obviously go through and write 2 words in each box. You won't get credit for that. You have to be engaging with the question. And then, yeah, credit for that. Okay. Let me go back to the syllabus. So that's where, right. So that takes us through participation. So a lot of the participation then is those workshops. You can get extra points, and the other parts of participation are classroom stuff, homework, and the bonus pause and practice. Okay. So then let's go back up to, we've talked about quizzes, we've talked about participation. So then the 2 major assignments are a close reading essay, which is due February 12th. I don't know why that says grading calendar there. That's obviously something I didn't erase. And then finally a research proposal and essay. And I have not, there is no information on that one yet, but all the information for this, so that will be posted, that will be coming. But the close reading assignment asks you to write a short essay on 1 or 2 poems. So if you're doing a single poem, you're analyzing that poem, you can also use the poem from the close reading workshop. So that's part of the point of the close reading workshops, is that this is moving you towards writing an essay. So you can use that, or you can use a different poem, or you can use, you know, one of the poems that you did a close reading workshop on and compare that to another poem. We will, of course, talk about this in more detail, and you can read these details. I'm not going to go through this, but definitely read this yourself. There will be pre-writing activities that are activities that will help you learn about some of the strategies for close reading. So we're going to be talking about those. And what time did we start? What time did we start? What time do we end? We're ending today at, we started at 1:30 today, 3:45, right? Yeah. Where was I? Right, so I was saying that I'm gonna talk about paraphrasing before we end today, because that's one thing that I'm asking you to do for homework. So we'll go through the pre-writing activities. Those will be included, and then you will write an essay. You'll come up with a thesis about a poem or about a couple of poems, and this gives you lots more information. So please read that through. And as it says, information on the research paper will be available on Moodle after reading week, or perhaps before that. Here's some general information on essays. Be aware of the Writing Center. If you're not aware of it already, this is a great resource to help you with your writing, and they will help with writing at any stage. So, you know, if you're having trouble getting started and brainstorming and planning, they can help with that. Or if you've started your essay and you're stuck in the middle, they can help with that. Or if you finished your essay and you want to get feedback because you finished early, then they will read your paper and help with that. So they're a really good resource for you. And this just gives you some other information about the format of your essay, double space, 12-point font, etc. It also lets you know my policy in terms of grammar. That is that I have the expectation that as a university student, you have a basic, pretty good grasp of grammar, mechanics, set structure, etc. If papers have more than 5 errors per page, which is really high, as I say it to myself, I'm tempted to move it down to 3, but I don't. 5 errors per page, those papers do not pass, they fail. But those papers you have the opportunity to rewrite. So that's like 5 errors per page. You know, if this is a 4-page paper, there's 20 errors in the paper. That's pretty high. So if you were to fail based on grammar, then you have the option to rewrite the assignment. You need to let me know within a week's time of getting your mark back. And then you need to, in your resubmission, make improvements both in grammar and in content. And then you get the average of the 2 grades. My late policy is here as well. Essays are due at 11:55 p.m. on the assigned date, so you get some extra time. They're not due in class as they would be if we were in person. I give you a 10-minute grace period for that. So for those last minute technical problems, but after that, papers are considered late, and then they're penalized 3% per day. Including weekends, up to a maximum of minus 15% for 5 days to 1 week late. So if you're 6 days or 7 days late, it's still minus 15%. After 7 days, papers are not accepted, and you get a 0. unless you have made some arrangement with me beforehand, because there are some extenuating circumstances. So make sure that if something like that is going on, that you contact me well in advance. Otherwise, I should say, and I think I don't know if I say this here, I should add this to my calendar. Do not feel like you need to let me know if you're going to hand in a paper late. That's fine. It's perfectly okay to hand in a paper late. You will have a penalty of 3% per day, but you don't need to let me know. You can just hand it in, and Moodle will let me know that it was late. Finally, plagiarism, and Turnitin. Plagiarism is a serious academic offense. I will make sure that we're linked to, there's Moodle has a academic integrity unit that people will need to complete. It's just like a 20-minute thing to complete it, but you will need to complete that in order to submit your first paper. You may have completed it already if you took another English course last term. So if you have, you won't have to do it again. But if you haven't, there is a unit on academic integrity which explains all of the ways in which one can go astray on their writing by not properly acknowledging your sources and not properly acknowledging where information comes from. So there's also one of the pause and practice exercises is on MLA method, and we will be talking about MLA citation method, which is what you'll use for your research paper. You won't have to worry about that in the first term at all, because your first paper doesn't use any secondary sources. So you're not required to, and you're not encouraged to really use any secondary sources for your first paper. That paper is really just about your ideas, your close reading of the essay. So in the second part of class, after reading week, when we get into talking about the research paper, then we'll talk a lot more about citations, etc. But essays are submitted to Turnitin.com, which will detect any plagiarism. And so please be aware of that. If you have reservations about Turnitin.com, as it says here, please make sure to let me know in the first 2 weeks of class to make some other kind of arrangements. And if not, yeah, just know that it will be submitted to that plagiarism detection service. Okay. So that's that. Then our schedule looks like this. So this is the other document that you need to have so that you know what we're reading and doing each day. And so this goes through the classes, and it also, of course, tells you when the quizzes are. So that's important. So quiz 1 is not till next Friday, which is the 15th, which means you can write it anytime. As it says here, must be completed within 24 hours before class time. I also list here, I'll list here some of the vocabulary words that you need to know. So that's one of the things with poetry, is we're learning certain things like narrative, dramatic, lyric poetry, dramatic monologue, etc. Where are words here? Speaker, blah, 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 blah. So those are things that could, that could appear on the quiz. And I think that is probably what you need to know right now. Let me go back here. So yeah, here's our, and I will have a checklist. This is a 2-week checklist, so you know what you need to do for the first 2 weeks, and you can check things off yourself as you complete them. The first thing is on the checklist is the Flipgrid video, which I was going to make one of, but I haven't yet. But it's very simple. You just open it up and you're going to introduce yourself and tell us how to pronounce your name. Tell us anything you want to. Tell us about yourself, your preferred pronouns, your hobbies, interests. And then the other thing that I suggest here Since this is a poetry and drama class, you could also tell us about anything, any of your interests related to this. I suspect maybe, you know, that some people have been involved in drama, and maybe been involved in some performances. Love to hear about that. We'll be thinking about both of these genres as not just literary genres, but actually like things that people practice. As I said, I'm a poet, and you know, if, I don't know whether people in this class read poetry, but certainly the two kinds of poetry, Insta poetry, that is poetry that exists on Instagram, and Rupi Kaur being the best known poet on Instagram. Maybe some of you know about her, is probably, you know, the most read poet like since Shakespeare. Essentially, she is very, very popular. So there is a real audience for poetry. And then there's also spoken word poetry, which if people are interested in, we'll find lots of things online, like button poetry, where you can watch spoken word poetry. And that's another live genre of poetry that people are really interested in. So definitely, you know, I don't want to treat poetry and drama just as literary artifacts. We also want to keep in mind that these are like live things, live events, live performances, live experiences that people enjoy. So that's where I started this, was to say that's something you could mention in your Flipgrid video if you've been involved in any ways in poetry or drama, or if you have a favorite poem. That's what I'm asking you to do. If you want, you could even read us a short poem. I will read you something probably on my Flipgrid intro when I do that. So that's for week 1. Until 45. I'm looking at the time to make sure I don't run out. Okay, the other thing that so for next class, then what we're doing is we're moving on to our introduction to poetry. And the first, so you're reading here. Let's flip back to the schedule, which is why we always need the schedule. You've got a reasonable amount of reading to do. I mean, well, okay, 15 pages. So that's what you're reading there, 7:30 to 7:45. And then I'm going to ask you, and this is hard. I realize this is not an easy activity. These homework things that I give are low stakes as well. So like, don't panic if you miss some of them, etc. They're not high stakes activities. They're low stakes activities, but you get credit again. You get credit for doing it. All of the homework activities, if you complete it, you get credit. If you don't do it, you don't get credit. So what we're talking about next class is, what is poetry? What defines poetry? And I want you to look at this poem, which is here, called Monologue for an Onion, which I think provides a very interesting answer to this question. And I want you to practice one of the skills, which is paraphrasing. So, and as I showed you on Moodle, I'll remind you where it is again, under the resources handouts, how to write a poetry paraphrase is there. But I will tell you what a paraphrase is right now, because we still have some time. A poetry paraphrase is a little different than what the definition of paraphrase. Often the definition of paraphrase is more like a précis, is a summary. A poetry paraphrase is a line by line translation into your own words. So you have to, so this poem is 30 lines long. It's a bit long. I know. This is going to take you half an hour to do, possibly more. It's hard. It's high stakes, but I mean, it's low stakes. So don't worry about it if you just like get frustrated and can't do it. The language is not, as you'll see, the language is not difficult. I don't mean to make you cry. I mean nothing but this has not kept you from peeling away my body, layer by layer, the tears clouding your eyes as the table fills with husks, cut flesh, all the debris of pursuit. Poor deluded human, you seek my heart. So your paraphrases, and because this is like, this language is not Shakespearean language, this is contemporary language. You can use some of the language here, but you want to translate it basically into your own words. I started doing this. Let me find actually, I did it all last night. I did it for the first time. I paraphrase it. Probably took me half an hour, so it's going to take you a little while. Let me see if I can find it. So I will. No, I don't know. Okay, never mind. I don't know where it is. I'm going to just do it off the top of my head. Okay, so here's my paraphrase of the first 3 lines. I don't mean to make you cry. A perfectly fine paraphrase for that would be, I'm not trying to make you cry. I mean nothing, but this has not kept you from peeling away my body, layer by layer. Let me go back and remind you of the title of this poem, right? We have to take that title literally. This is a monologue for an onion, which, so let's think about this as a play. This is a soliloquy. This is a monologue. This is an onion speaking. Okay, so let's just, we need that. The other thing about a paraphrase is that you keep it in the same point of view as the poem. So your paraphrase is going to be first person point of view. This is I. So what did I say my first line was? I'm not trying to make you cry. I mean nothing. Oh, see, now I noticed something. I noticed mean here and mean here, which suddenly says to me, maybe that mean means something more here. But anyway, I'm not trying to make you cry. I mean nothing, but this has not kept you from peeling away my body layer from layer. So maybe I would translate it as that. I'm not trying to make you cry. I'm not trying to do anything, but this hasn't stopped you from cutting me up and peeling away my skins. Okay, that's my paraphrase of the first stanza. So again, a paraphrase is line by line, so that your paraphrase will be the same number of lines. It'll be 30 lines, translation into your own words. What a paraphrase asks us to do is to, again, engage with a poem really closely. We got to look at the lines. It gets, this may get more difficult. If it doesn't get more difficult, that's good. And what it will do is help you understand this poem in a way that you never would by just reading it. So you're really actively working with it. All right, so that's that. And it's, let me say, this is like, I was going back and forth on this. I mean, I think this is a really good poem to talk about. I'm going to end that and see you again for a second. I think this is a really good poem to talk about what poetry means and does. So that's why I want to use it. It's not, it's longish, I know. So like, I'm telling you, it's going to take you at least 30 minutes probably to translate this poem. And what else did I want to say about that? I think that's all that I wanted to say about that. You would then, let's go back to Moodle for a minute. You will upload that here. So that's your first homework assignment, and you would just click on that. And well, this is showing me, this is my view, so this is not the student view anyway. It'll be straightforward. It is open until, this is only open until the beginning of class on Friday. So to get the point for this, you do have to finish it by then. And that will be, again, the way with homework. And homework is not high stakes. It's not like an essay, etc. It's not worth as much as a quiz, but But I give you homework because it will help you engage with the material. Okay, so are there any questions? Okay, I know that my job is to find out about getting electronic access to the book for those people who have already purchased it. But you still don't have to worry about that for yet. You know, you don't have to worry about that immediately. You don't need to worry about it for Friday because all you're doing is reading those pages in the book and then responding to this poem. And this poem is not in the textbook, but it's linked here through the syllabus. So, oh, and I think it's also linked here under week 1. So it's right there. So easy to find. Let me just go through the checklist. So just so you know, okay, so the very first thing I'd be happy if people did is make your Flipgrid video. I'm saying that the final deadline for that is January 15th, but I'm saying that basically because people can still enroll in the course up until that date. I'd love it if people just did this as quickly as possible. I promise that I will do mine soon. I know I have so many things to do. I have so many things on my checklist to do. I want to get that Norton answer to you before I do that. But anyway, do that. And then it tells you, complete chapter 11 readings. Those are those 15 pages for January 8th. Do your paraphrase for January 8th. And then the next one's complete readings. And I won't write out the full details on the readings. So you do have to keep going back to that calendar. So, complete the readings for chapter 11 and 18, then do those readings, and then reminding you to complete the quiz the following week. Okay, I think that is all I have for today. Any questions? We can't see your screen anymore. When did that come in? Oh, that's because I thought, okay, yeah, thank you. I'm not screen sharing and I thought I was, but wait, you can see me though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I thought I was screen sharing, but I wasn't. Did I just point to anything that we needed to know here? Let me just go back to show you what I was looking at. Yeah, I was going through, I was just looking at the checklist at the bottom here to remind people that's where you can check things off, and that's where you know what you need to do for the first 2 weeks. Well, that and of course the calendar. You always need to get back to the calendar to know exactly what the readings are. And I think that's it. The homework, again, under assignments. So the first homework you're going to upload by clicking on that link. And I should actually add a thing that says it's due here. I'll just do it right now. First essay. Why is that? Because that's a label. Okay, never mind. I will do that after. I was going to put in the time that it's due. Oh, it's okay. Anyway, it is due, as I'll say again, it's due. This one not at 11:55, but these ones, homework assignments, are going to be due before class because those are things that we talk about in class. So once we talk about Monologue for an Onion, then you can't submit the homework anymore. It needed to be done before. Okay, so any questions? So the one thing on my to-do list is to find out about the Norton electronic access. Anybody else have any other questions or anything else that I need to find out for you? Nope. Okay, cool. Then I will see you on Friday. Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for the class.
Thanks. I can hang, you guys can please hang up. I can hang out for a few minutes too at the end of class to see if like anybody has any questions that they wanted to ask me about. So I'll wait until people are off. Okay,
Looks like everybody's gone.
good. So how many people were there in total?
Including you and me, I think there was 21 people, so 19
Oh.
students in total.
Yeah, that's not great. Because
That many
there's
people are
well,
registered.
because there's 33, I think now.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's just because it's the first week. Maybe a lot of people
Yeah.
realize they're
Yeah.
just reading over the syllabus, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks.
No problem.
So,
I emailed you the attendance list.
Okay, great.
With just
All
like
right. So I
process
will.
names of the people
Yeah.
who showed up.
Okay. Good. So yeah, I'll see you Friday.
All right.
Sounds
See you
good. Okay. Bye.
then. Bye.